The Weaver of Starlight. In a quiet valley, nestled between the whispering woods and the sun-kissed mountains, lay the village of Stillwater. It was a pleasant place, known for its tidy gardens and the gentle stream that gurgled through its heart. But for a young girl named Alara, Stillwater felt flat. The days were a predictable cycle of chores and play, and the nights were simply dark. While other children were content, Alara felt a persistent, quiet ache for something more, something magical. She would spend hours lying in the meadow, staring at the sky, feeling that the twinkling stars were trying to tell her a secret she couldn't quite hear. Alara lived with her grandmother, a wise woman with hands like old parchment and eyes that held the light of 1,000 remembered sunsets. Granny Me was the village storykeeper, and her cottage smelled always of dried lavender and warm bread. "The stars seem so dull tonight, Granny," Alara sighed one evening, perched on the windowsill. Granny Me looked up from her mending, her needle flashing in the candlelight. "The stars aren't dull, child, they're just waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For their stories to be remembered," she said softly. "Long ago, they weren't just points of light, they were weavers. Each star held a thread of a different virtue, a thread of courage, of kindness, of honesty, of patience. Together, they would weave their light into the night sky, and their stories would drift down to earth in our dreams, reminding us how to be. That's why you feel the way you do when you look up. You're feeling the echo of their work." Alara's eyes widened. What happened? Why did they stop? "A great shadow of forgetfulness grew in the mountains," Granny Me explained. "It wasn't a wicked shadow, just a very sad and heavy one. It made people forget the importance of the little things, a brave word, a helping hand, a patient wait. As the virtues were forgotten on earth, the starlight above grew dim. The looms of the stars fell silent. Now they only watch and wait for the virtues to be rekindled below so they can shine brightly again." That night, Alara couldn't sleep. The idea of the weaving stars captivated her. She slipped out of her bed and into the meadow, lying in the cool grass, gazing up at the faint, twinkling lights. "I wish I could help you weave again," she whispered into the stillness. As if in answer, a single star directly above her seemed to pulse. It grew brighter and brighter until a slender, shimmering thread of silver light detached itself and drifted down, 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 landing softly on Alara's chest. It was cool and weightless, a strand of pure liquid starlight. As it touched her, a warm, steady feeling bloomed inside her, a feeling of quiet bravery. A soft voice, like the chiming of a distant bell, spoke in her mind. "The first thread is courage, little weaver, but a single thread is weak. To rekindle our light, you must find the others, seek the loom of the heart where they can be joined." Alara sat up, her heart pounding, not with fear but with a thrilling purpose. She held the thread of starlight in her hand. It was real. The magic was real, and she, Alara, had been chosen. She ran back to the cottage and woke Granny Me, showing her the shimmering thread. Her grandmother didn't seem surprised, only nodded with a knowing smile. "The loom of the heart is not a place you can find on a map, Alara. It's a state of being. It appears when a heart is ready to create something true and good. You will find it when you have gathered what you need. But remember, the threads are not found in treasure chests. They are earned through action." The next morning, with the thread of courage safely coiled in a small wooden box and a pouch of provisions from Granny Me, Alara set out. Her first goal was the Whispering Woods, for the voice had whispered that the second thread, kindness, was hidden there. The woods were deep and green, with sunlight filtering through the canopy in dappled patterns. It was beautiful, but it was also easy to get lost. As Alara walked, the trees seemed to watch her, their leaves rustling secrets she couldn't understand. She held her box tightly, the steady thrum of the courage thread giving her the strength to go on. After several hours, she heard a distressed chirping. Following the sound, she found a young robin on the forest floor, one of its wings bent at an awkward angle. It fluttered helplessly, its eyes wide with panic. Alara's first thought was to keep going. She had an important quest, but then she looked at the frightened creature and her heart softened. The quest was about virtues, after all. What was the point of finding a thread of kindness if she wasn't kind herself? She knelt down, speaking in a soft, soothing voice. "It's all right, little one, I won't hurt you." She spent the next hour carefully gathering soft moss to make a nest for the bird, and then used a smooth, straight twig and a strip of cloth from her hem to gently splint its wing. She dripped water from her canteen into its beak. The robin calmed under her gentle touch, its panicked chirps subsiding into soft, trusting peeps. As she finished, a warm, golden light began to glow from the mossy nest where the bird lay. A second thread of starlight, this one the color of warm honey, lifted into the air and floated towards her. It coiled gently around her wrist, filling her with a sense of deep contentment and connection. "The second thread is kindness," the star voice chimed. "It is found not in seeking but in seeing." With the robin resting comfortably, Alara continued her journey, now with 2 threads of starlight, 1 silver, 1 gold, guiding her way. She felt stronger, more complete. The woods began to change. The friendly, sun-dappled trees gave way to a darker, denser part of the forest where the ground was marshy and the air was thick. This was the Murkmire, a place the village children were warned to avoid. The path here was not made of dirt, but of uncertain footing and tricky illusions. This, she felt, was where she would find the 3rd thread. She hadn't gone far when she came across a strange sight. A small, furry creature with the face of a fox and the tail of a beaver was stuck fast in a patch of thick, black mud. It was struggling, but the more it struggled, the deeper it sank. "Help!" it cried in a squeaky, panicked voice. "I'm sinking." Alara moved to help, but the creature's eyes darted around shiftily. "Oh, thank you, quick, grab my paw, but be careful, the ground is tricky here, don't step there, step over here to your left." Something felt wrong. The creature's directions seemed designed to lead her into another, larger patch of mud. She remembered Granny Mee's stories about the Glimmerwumps, creatures who loved to play tricks on travelers. She stopped. "You're not really stuck, are you?" she said, her voice firm. The creature's panicked expression melted away, replaced by a look of grumpy disappointment. "Oh, bother, you're too clever. Most people just rush in and get stuck themselves. It's terribly funny." "It's not funny," Alara said, crossing her arms. "It's dishonest. I'm on an important quest and you're wasting my time with lies." The Glimmerwump had the decency to look ashamed. It easily pulled itself free from the mud, which was only ankle deep. "Sorry," it muttered. "It gets lonely out here. I just wanted someone to play with." It looked at the glowing threads in her hand. "You're the Starlight Weaver, aren't you? I've heard the whispers. I can help you. The true path through the Murkmire is hidden. I'll show you to make up for my trick." It was a test. The easy, dishonest path was the trap. The harder, truthful one was the way forward. "Thank you," Alara said, accepting the creature's honest offer. As the Glimmerwump pointed out the safe, solid stones hidden just beneath the murky water, a 3rd thread, clear and sharp as crystal, emerged from the heart of a nearby gnarled tree. It was the thread of honesty. It joined the others, and Alara felt a new clarity, as if her mind had been washed clean. With the Glimmerwump's help, she navigated the Murkmire quickly and emerged on the other side at the foot of the sun-kissed mountains. The air was cooler here, and the path ahead was steep and rocky. This was where the shadow of forgetfulness was said to dwell, and where she would find the 4th thread, patience. The climb was arduous, the rocks were loose, the incline was relentless, and the thin air made her lungs burn. Hours turned into what felt like days. She would climb a little, slip back, and have to find a new way. Doubt began to creep in. What was she doing, a little girl from Stillwater, thinking she could relight the stars? It was ridiculous. She sat down on a ledge, feeling tears of frustration well up. She looked at the 3 threads in her hand. They glowed softly, reminding her of the courage she'd mustered, the kindness she'd shown, the honesty she'd upheld. She hadn't come this far by giving up. She took a deep, slow breath. She couldn't rush the mountain. She had to move at its pace. So she stopped fighting it. She focused on finding one secure handhold at a time, on taking one steady breath after another. She didn't look at the distant peak, she looked only at the next step. The frantic urgency faded, replaced by a slow, determined rhythm. And as she embraced this slow and steady pace, something changed. The grueling climb became almost meditative. She noticed the delicate, tenacious flowers growing in the cracks of the rocks. She felt the sun on her back and the solid stone beneath her hands. She was no longer battling the mountain, she was working with it. When she finally pulled herself onto a wide, flat plateau near the summit, she wasn't exhausted and frustrated. She was tired, but filled with a deep, profound sense of accomplishment. There, growing from a crack in the very center of the plateau, was a small, hardy plant with leaves like gray-green velvet. It bloomed with a single flower from which a thread of soft, copper light gently unwound. It was the thread of patience. It coiled around the others, and a feeling of unshakable calm settled over her. She had all 4 threads, now she needed the loom. She stood on the plateau, high above the world. The village of Stillwater was a tiny speck in the valley below. The shadow of forgetfulness wasn't a monster she could see, but a feeling, a heavy gray blanket of apathy that seemed to smother the colors of the world. She held out the 4 threads, but they simply shimmered in her hand, separate and unconnected. "Where is the loom?" she cried out to the sky, her voice small against the vastness. The star voice chimed gently in her mind. "The loom of the heart is not out there, little weaver. It is within, you have carried it all along." Alara looked down at her own chest where her heart beat steadily. She understood. The courage, kindness, honesty, and patience weren't just threads she had collected, they were now part of her. Her own heart was the loom. She closed her eyes, focusing all her will. She imagined her heart not as a muscle, but as a beautiful, intricate loom. She saw the silver thread of courage as the strong, vertical warp. Then with her mind's eye, she began to weave. She took the golden thread of kindness and wove it horizontally through the courage, remembering the feeling of helping the robin. She took the clear thread of honesty and wove it next, remembering the clarity of choosing the true path. Finally, she took the copper thread of patience and wove it in, feeling the steady rhythm of the mountain climb. As she wove, something miraculous happened. The threads didn't just lie together, they fused, their lights merging and magnifying. A new fifth color began to emerge from the center of the weave, a brilliant, radiant white, the color of pure condensed starlight. It was the virtue that bound all the others together, love. Not a sappy emotion, but the active, powerful love for the world and its people that made courage necessary, kindness natural, honesty vital, and patience possible. A beam of this pure white light shot out from her chest, piercing the heavy shadow of forgetfulness. Where the light touched, the gray apathy dissolved like mist in the morning sun. The colors of the valley below deepened, becoming vibrant and alive. The green of the woods became emerald, the blue of the stream became sapphire. But the most breathtaking change was in the sky above. As the light from Alara's woven heart reached the heavens, the dim stars began to blaze. One by one, they ignited, burning with fierce, joyful light. And then they began to weave. Threads of starlight, amber, silver, rose, and blue stretched across the black velvet of the night, weaving together into a magnificent, shimmering tapestry. It was more beautiful than any constellation she had ever seen. It was a living, breathing work of art, a story of virtue written in light. The great weaving had begun again. Alara stood on the mountain, bathed in the light of a billion weaving stars, her own heart the catalyst. She wasn't just Alara of Stillwater anymore. She was Alara, the Weaver of Starlight. The journey back was a blur of joy. The whispering woods were now the singing woods, filled with bright birdsong. The Merkmire had firmed into a path of solid, sweet-smelling earth. When she arrived home, the village of Stillwater was celebrating. People were talking in the streets not about the weather or their chores, but about the breathtaking sky and the strange, wonderful feeling of hope that had filled their hearts. They didn't know it was because of her, and she didn't need them to. Granny Mee was waiting on the porch, her face illuminated by the brilliant stars. She opened her arms, and Alara ran into them. "You did it, my child," Granny whispered, holding her tight. "You reminded the stars how to shine." That night, as Alara lay in her bed, she looked out at the woven sky. The stars pulsed gently, their light a comforting presence. She knew the shadow of forgetfulness could always return in small ways, in moments of fear or selfishness. But she also knew the remedy. The loom was in her heart and the threads were in her choices. She closed her eyes, and for the first time she didn't dream of a distant magic. She dreamed of a world where every kind act, every brave word, every honest moment, and every patient wait added another thread to the great, beautiful starlit tapestry above, a nightly reminder that the smallest virtues create the grandest magic. And as she slept, a single happy tear traced a path down her cheek, glistening in the starlight like a tiny, fallen star.